All right, so this is part two of the solid maple bookcases. I left off unclamping all the panels before. Today I'm going to start off with scraping glue off one face of all the panels, making sure everything fits through my planer for the width because it's only 15 inches wide. But a couple of these boards I did glue up just because it's what I had. Like this one, I think is like 18 inches wide or something. 17 inches wide. So I'm going to have to rip that down, but I'll have to scrape some glue off of it, and then I'm going to be planing all these down. So I have the legs stacked up right here, or the sides I guess you could call it, stacked up right here, and then all of the tops on top of it just stacked up right there. I'm going to plane them all down to the finished thickness of 3/4 of an inch. Then I'll work on ripping them to the finished width and cutting them to the finished length. Alright, a lot of this is just going to be on time lapse. Oh yeah, I'd like to add, it's a cold start today. I think the shop is right around 25 degrees. Got the wood stove going. Hopefully that heats it up quick, because I'm in here with a hat and gloves on and it's not too fun. Alright, yep, I'm going to set up that time lapse. Alright, I ripped everything I needed down to 12 inches, so these are all at 12 inches, and all of this is at 12 inches. I did that before I planed it because I already had a true straight edge, but also the scrap that I have right here, and then these boards down here now are at 7/8 of an inch thick. Yeah, 7/8 instead of being 3/4. So it gives it a little more use in the future if I need it for stuff like this. I know I'm going to need some mounting, blocking, and whatnot, so some of these longer strips will be perfect for that. But yeah, that's the only reason why. Well, actually, not the only. The second reason is why plane down an extra. Some of those are 3 inches that I'm ripping off. Why plane them down and load up the planer more and fill up the dust collection more with dust? It's just more wasteful. All right, gonna set up a time lapse for planing these down. I always forget about this dust collection bag, even though it's right here. It is filled up to here. That's not good. That's gonna make one heck of a mess. It's alright though. Let's see if we can just get the bag out and then not disturb the top until we get the new bag on. Not likely though. Well, only a little of it fell. That's alright. Not all of it. That's all I'm going to do with that for now. Do it. Make sure the bag is above everywhere. Think so. Let's test it so it doesn't, make sure it doesn't leak. Knock everything down above, from above. And I'm already a quarter full. That's all right. Back to the time lapse. Alright, so I have all these legs, or side panels, whatever you want to call them, planed down to a perfect 3/4 of an inch. I have all the tops planed down to a perfect 3/4 of an inch as well. My next step is to cut them to finish length. I got to square up the end and then cut to the finished size. Same with over here. This little imperfections here and here doesn't matter because these are going to be sandwiched together with another leg, so you're only going to see one face. So here is a good face on it, and the other one, there's going to be another leg that sandwiches up against here, so the face of that's going to be facing out, and then there's going to be a cap face frame board that goes on here. So yeah, gonna get working on these. Also, the legs, there is baseboard heat on this wall, so I'm gonna have to notch out, I have it on my drawing somewhere, but I'm gonna have to notch out the leg to accommodate for the baseboard heat. So the leg will still go to the ground, it'll get notched around the baseboard heat, and then the first shelf is gonna start somewheres up here. Alright, I'm gonna set up for all this and get to it. Okay, so what we have is all of our final dimensions for everything. I have all my adjustable shelves that are cut to length, cut to width. They went through the edge sander and got a little bit of, well, on the edge sander, got the edge cleaned up and sanded, rough sanded. Still has to be hit with the orbital. But I then went over it with the router and an 1/8 inch radius, and I just put a little radius on both the front edge and the back edge. That way, when the homeowner decides to install them, they can go either way. I have the legs down here. Those are cut to finish width and length, but they still need some more work done to them. I have the tops, and I have the fixed shelves down here. So today I'm going to be working on, okay, let me see if I can move some of this and I'll show you what I'm going to be working on. I can move some of this over. All right, so these legs need to be going on a wall that has baseboard heat on it. So the leg is going to be standing up like this. And then this notch is going to get cut into the leg to accommodate for the baseboard heat. So I made this jig that I'm going to put onto each leg. And I will stencil it out first. I'll cut it rough size with a jigsaw. And then afterwards, I'll go back over it, clamp this down, and use a guide bearing router bit and have it run across here so it's all consistent, even, nice, clean, and smooth. So I have to do that. And then these fixed shelves and the fixed tops have to get dadoed in to this leg. A fixed bottom is going to be going somewhere around here. There's going to be a fixed middle, somewhere in the middle, and then there's going to be the fixed top at the very top. They're all getting, well, the bottom and the middle are getting dadoed. The top is actually going to be a rabbit because it's at the edge, but same setup. I'm going to be making a jig that I can do that with a router because that is a 84, I think it's 84 inches long, and I just don't feel comfortable setting it up on the table saw and having it consistent with just how long it is because I'm going to be going across grain. I don't have that big of a table saw where it's easy and comfortable. So I'll just set it up with a plywood jig and run them all with a router and a guide bearing through it. So I'm going to be setting that up. If all goes well, I'll be able to start assembling some of these. Maybe work on some other stuff for it. All right, see you guys as I go. Okay, so this is the layout of the jig that I'm talking about. I haven't figured out locations of the shelf yet, but I'm just going to show you a rough idea. There's going to be these two boards that are plywood, right there and right there, that hold the piece snug. Then there will be boards across it like this that my router will run on and my bearing will run against that will actually rabbit out the top. And then there's more of them for down here like that. Now the reason you have two instead of just one is because my shelves are, I didn't even measure, like they're 1 3/16 or 1 1/8 or something like that. So I don't have a 1 3/16 or 1 1/8 flush trim router bit. So I have to have two set up, and then same with down the bottom. Over here, wherever that is and wherever that is. So that's basically what it's going to look like. Up here, I'm going to set in a board just to catch this Oh, I should point the camera at it. I'm going to set in a board just to catch this, so there's a stop, so I don't have to align this all the time. But yeah, that's basically how it's going to look. Alright, so we got our first piece. We tested all our joints, made sure we liked them. Here is the top rabbet. It's 3/4 wide by 1/4 deep. The center dado, where a shelf fits into here, that is 1 3/16 wide and 1/4 deep. And then this is again 1 3/16 wide and 1/4 inch deep. But yeah, this is the jig. Just some simple plywood nailed together. As long as you lay it out right, it works good. And then you use a router bit. I'm using a plunge router just because it's easier, but you don't have to use a plunge router. It is open-ended, so you can use a fixed router and just run it all the way through. But this is the router bit I'm using. It is a overbearing flush trim. This one just happens to only be a 1/2 inch cut. It's 3/4 inch diameter, but I have other ones in here. Like this one is too long to use for that setup because the bearing's far past where the stops are. But if I were to use something like this, this is like a 3/4 inch cut by a 3/4 inch diameter. But yeah, you can use all that. I mean, even if you really wanted to, you could use something like this. If your stops, if these blocks were much thicker, you could use something like this. I believe that's 1 1/8 inch. Could be 1 inch. But yeah. Now I'm just going to set up a time lapse and have you guys watch that. Alright, so we have all our legs dadoed and rabbited with the router. Now I am laying out for all of my baseboard heat notches. Those are going to get cut with the jigsaw 1/16 or so shy of the line. And then my router jig is going to get clamped on to each one of them. Can't really do this one-handed, but it's going to get clamped onto each one of them. Then I'm going to run across this and flush it up so they're all consistent, nice and smooth and even without having a rough saw edge. Alright, we're going to be working on that. Alright, we got all the dados cut in it, all the rabbits on the top cut in it. I have all the notches on the bottom cut and routed so they're nice and smooth. Our next step is we are going to be drilling a couple holes through the dado slot for our install, or not our install, our assembly. So those get put together. Then also we want to do all of our line boring for our adjustable shelves inside, because it's easier to do it while it's horizontal like this opposed to vertical. Trying to do it standing up is just kind of a pain in the butt, balance and everything. So we're going to set up to do that, and then after that we have to sand everything real quick before we assemble, because it's easier to sand it while it's disassembled, and then we'll be working on assembling. Alright, so years ago I made this little drilling line board jig. All it is a piece of laminate laid up on particle board so it stays straight, but the laminate is to help give it some rigidity for drilling through it, and when the drill wobbles a little bit, if it shakes, it doesn't, now actually this is the wrong size drill bit, but it doesn't tear up the sides as much because the laminate's a little more stronger. But I have my line boring spaced out, and then I just threw some tape on it to reference, so this is always my bottom. I'm not drilling anything past this. Then I have the same offset. I'll take this, I'll flip it over and put it on this side, and then drill that side. Take it, put it up here, do the same thing, drill here, flip it over, put it on that side. I always keep it clamped down so it doesn't move or wobble. And I have this little block in here just as my little stop reference. Quick and easy just to bump it up to that rather than trying to flush everything up in here. So yeah, gonna go through my shelf pins. I use 5mm shelf pins. I don't use 1/4 inch just because I like the smaller hole. It looks more sleek. But yeah, just a lot of hand drilling now. They do make some jigs. I have yet to try any out. I would love to eventually get them and try it out, but for now, this works. Alright, so I got all of these line bored and drilled, or that's the same thing, but I got them all drilled and line bored. I got them finished sanded. My next step, which I actually did not mention before, is this is the front. Yeah, there's going to be a face frame piece getting attached onto here. So I'm going to cut a slot through here, not the whole thing, just a big section on that upper portion and a big section on this lower portion. And then on the face frame, I'll be cutting the reversed side of the slot and then put biscuits in it so they slide together and attach. So I'm going to be doing that, but after that I'm going to call it a wrap for this video and I'll go on to the next one.